Good afternoon, how are we doing, Tuscaloosa? And the internet world, welcome in. This is the Joe Gaither Show right here on BamaCentral, BamaCentral.com as a part of the BamaCentral Broadcasting Network. The Joe Gaither Show, as well as all things Alabama podcast and Blue Collar Unplugged. You can be heard right here on the BamaCentral Broadcasting Network. Woo! It's going to be a lot of fun today. I thank you guys so much for joining me today. It is a Memorial Day Monday, and so we want to start off, of course, we need to start off by thanking all of our veterans who are currently serving, our veterans who have served, and of course, Memorial Day is really about remembering those who served and were unable to return home. So we thank all the veterans. We want to start off, of course, by thanking all the veterans on this Memorial Day, whether you served, whether your brother served, your sister served, your mother, your father served. If you served in the military, I appreciate you, and I want to thank you guys. Not this Monday is not just about taking a Monday off. It's about remembering the sacrifices that those made who allowed us to have Monday off. So let's get this Joe Gaither Show started on a Monday by thanking our veterans. I want to thank you, Uncle Chris, for your service to our military. I have a number of family members who have served. Uncle Chris in the first Desert Storm was over there, so handled his business, and I am thankful to God that Uncle Chris came home safely, so we thank him, and we remember all those who had loved ones that did not return safely on this Memorial Day. They allow us to have this silly little show on a Monday. So it's not like there's anything to talk about today. You guys can jump in and join the show on the Twitter machine at Joe Gaither6, sending me your comments, questions, queries, and complaints. You can go ahead and join us on the Facebook side of things at Joe Gaither as well. If you want to send me any of your comments on the show, you can find me right there, and of course read all of our great material at BamaCentral.com. Nothing going on over the weekend, nothing to talk about for this Monday at all. Woo, it was actually a lot of fun, a fun Memorial Day weekend, and I have a laundry list of things to get into. Today's show, we're going to talk about the Alabama football players who have enrolled over the weekend. Yes, the rest of the freshman class has gotten on campus. So we're going to talk about the rest of the freshman class, the 2023s, who are going to be adding to this Alabama Crimson Tide football team, and a couple of transfers enrolling over the weekend as well. As the summer session, the summer school session gets started, the guys will enroll, and they'll get started on their summer workouts. We'll talk about that. Obviously, you have to talk about the Diamond Sports today. Just bravo for our Diamond Sports, the ladies, the Alabama softball team qualifying for the College World Series out there in Oklahoma City. Now, we'll talk about it, but the girls got a brutal draw out there in Oklahoma City, but congratulations, just an epic performance, a great performance this weekend, taking down Northwestern right here at the Rhodes House. Got to see Montana Fouts leave her legacy in the Rhodes House on top, and now whatever she does out there at Oklahoma City will be really just cherries on top for her career. So we'll talk about that as well. Of course, we'll talk about Alabama baseball, the other side, the men's side. If you'd have told me 2 months ago Alabama baseball would not only be safely in the NCAA tournament, but hosting a regional round, I would have said, hey man, I want the drugs that you're on. But no, Alabama baseball over the last month has just been incredible. And so we'll talk about where they stand for their NCAA tournament run as well today. So it's going to be a fun show. We'll also touch maybe on my Night of Champions. You guys know that I love in WWE, so we might touch on Night of Champions as well. Tomorrow, oh my gosh, it's going to be a huge week. It's going to be a huge week. Tomorrow, SEC spring meetings get started. Nick Saban in the room. Will we go with nine conference games, 10 conference games, 8 conference games? What are Greg Sankey and company going to decide tomorrow or this week, the next couple of days? Really, they'll be in there, I think, Tuesday and Wednesday, really meeting together, hammering down a bunch of nothing, probably. But there will be some stories and news that come out of the SEC spring meetings. Most namely, I would imagine you'll hear more on the divisions, more on division-less football going forward. We'll find out what the SEC coaches want to think over the next couple of days. So It's going to be a fun show, and I really appreciate you guys jumping in here and joining us. Let's get it kicked off. Start talking football. Alabama football over the weekend. Yes, I know no games were played, but news. And we got to start with news. We'll take the smallest morsel of news and turn it into the biggest morsel of news. Alabama football saw what? 4 freshmen added to the roster this weekend. You guys already know about them because you follow the Alabama Crimson Tide team just like I do, covering it like white on rice. But 4 big names added to the team this weekend, getting ready for summer school semester 1. Starts off pretty much in June, and they'll go to summer 1 and then summer 2. So they'll end up taking a couple of classes and getting ready, getting kind of assimilated into the college lifestyle. And there are 4 really big names, 4 really big freshmen. Obviously, let's start with the biggest. Well, you want to start biggest or smallest? We'll go smallest. How about that? I mean, it's hard to say smallest in prestige, but okay, smallest in stature. Young Connor Talty, kicker out of Chicago, has enrolled this weekend. So it's Monday. I'm sure that he is. I'm sure he's currently probably getting acclimated. No school today due to Memorial Day, but I'm sure that he is still unpacking his gear, kind of figuring out where he wants to go on campus, getting into his clique. I'm sure the freshmen and the special teamers are all taking him under his wing. Did you see Connor Talty last week on social media? Oh my God! I don't know how beneficial or how useful it will be for an Alabama kicker to have this skill. But if you didn't see it last week on the social media machine, Connor Talty, training back home in the Chicagoland area, hit 22 miles an hour. 22 miles an hour on a treadmill. What's the fastest you've ever run on a treadmill? You know, I like to call myself an average Andy athlete, and I was that, barely average. I think the fastest speed ever hit on a treadmill was probably like, what, 14, 15 miles an hour? I don't know. It became really popular after my athletic days to put out those treadmill videos of guys trying to catch up and run. But Connor Talty this past weekend, last week really, hitting the social media with a 22-mile-an-hour sprint, being able to sprint that fast. So if you're covering kicks for Connor, Connor is going to get down there and cover those kicks for the Crimson Tide. Going to look forward to it. Maybe seeing that athleticism, or maybe that'll be useful in a fake field goal situation. Or maybe in a field goal scenario where you're kicking, a 65-yard field goal, and you need to cover the kick. Connor Talty showing off some elite speed, especially from the kicker position this past weekend. All right, we continue it, and really the other 3 freshmen, not small at all. Yanzi Pierre, all 5 stars. Yanzi Pierre, Richard Young, and Keon Keeley all enrolling in Tuscaloosa over the weekend. And, Yanzi Pierre from Eufaula, Alabama, the only Alabama native to enroll this weekend. But Yanzi Pierre from Eufaula, he was really supposed to be that primary edge rusher until Keon Keeley flipped his commitment from Ohio State. From Notre Dame. From Notre Dame to Alabama mid-December or so, mid-November. Yeah, it was roughly November, December of this past year that Keon Keeley joined the class. But Yanzi Pierre, both those guys are coming in this weekend. Yanzi Pierre is 6'4", listed in 6'4", 215, 210, somewhere in that range. He's going to have to put on some muscle. But come on, tell me any freshman that's not been the case, and I'll say, those freshmen are very unique. I think Pierre's going to come in and be able to spend some time as an edge rusher. I don't know if he's going to be getting on the field a ton this year, because I do think he's going to be developing his pass rushing moves. I'm not sure that he's going to be a huge asset against the run this coming year. But as a spot pass rusher, maybe when Alabama gets up on some of these teams, you'll be able to see Yanzi Pierre get into the fold. He was the number 4 edge rusher in the class. Ended up as the 30th best prospect in the class, but I think that he's going to be a player that Alabama fans are really proud of. But just gonna have to be a little patient with Yanzi Pierre, I think. So Yanzi enrolls this weekend, and he's compared to his cousin Courtney Upshaw. So we'll see if Yanzi what kind of mark he can make on this Crimson Tide team this December. This fall. I got distracted by my phone. This fall for the 2023 Alabama Crimson Tide team. The other big defender, of course, is Keon Keeley, the other edge rusher. Keon Keeley, pretty much number one recruit in the class, flipped after being committed to Notre Dame for a long, long time. Rumor had it, legend had it, that Will Anderson was very, very instrumental in his recruitment, basically showing him, hey, you come to Alabama, you follow the process, Alabama's going to turn you into an elite pass rusher and a top-end draft pick. So Keon Keeley, he's going to come in. He enrolled this weekend. Big body guy, 6'6", 240-pounder, big fella. Really, has has the size to go ahead and contribute to this Alabama team. And so with Keon Keeley, while Yanzi's probably going to develop in the weight room, Keon will as well, as a freshman. But I think Keon's from a physicality standpoint, will be closer to being ready to contribute. Problem for Keon is the edge rusher room is stacked. Chris Braswell, Dallas Turner. You've got a lot of edge rushers already out there. Keanu Coate for Alabama, and Quandarius Robinson as well. So it's going to be hard for Keon to break in from a depth chart standpoint, but as a physicality specimen standpoint, I think he can be a guy who gets into some rotational minutes. Obviously, Dallas Turner and Chris Braswell will be your main two players on the edge, but Keon Keeley is going to get into some action. I mean, I would expect you absolutely see him use all four of his games if they plan on redshirting him. I still expect him to see all four of his games. Get him four games of action in 2023 and develop him to be pretty much your number one edge rusher in 2024. Your other edge guys, Antonio. Let's see, Dallas Turner, Quandarius. Yeah, I hit them all. Quandarius Robinson, Chris Braswell. Oh, Jeremiah Alexander, dummy. Jeremiah Alexander, obviously having a big A-Day as well. We'll be in that mix as well. I was just making sure, looking through my notes, that I hit all the edge rushers. But yeah, Keon Keeley going to come in with a lot of physical ability. Problem is the edge rusher, and you can never have enough edge rushers just because getting to the quarterback is such a valuable commodity. So you weren't ever gonna turn down Keon Keeley or Yanzi Pierre, but the two guys have joined a very stacked edge rusher linebacking room at the University of Alabama. All right, the other freshman, the other 2024 who has enrolled this weekend is one Richard Young. I know a lot of the hype has been around Justice Haynes on the offensive side of the ball. Both Richard Young and Justice Haynes, 5-star running backs. Richard Young coming out of Florida. Richard Young, I want to remind you guys, really was one of the first commits in this 2023 class. And Richard Young was one of the guys. I mean, Richard and Wilkin Formby took it upon themselves. I felt like, now granted this is a little bit outside looking in perspective, but I felt like Richard Young and Wilkin Formby kind of took it upon themselves to be the leaders of the class with Eli Holstein to recruit the rest of the class. You remember Richard Young, and I mean Keon Keeley had just come to Alabama for a visit, was still committed to Notre Dame, but it was Richard Young who basically put out on Twitter, "Hey Bama fans, don't worry, I'm going to get this guy." And Richard Young promising Alabama fans that he was going to ensure Alabama had a good recruiting class again. Now I don't know if it was Richard Young or if it was Nick Saban or the NFL or 16 years worth of pedigree, but we'll give Richard Young some credit for really being that player recruiter. Every class has a player recruiter. Every class kind of has that guy or two who build the class or help lead the class together. I think Richard Young was very vital for this 2023 class coming in together. All right, so he's enrolling this weekend. Can he get on the field? It's gonna be a challenge. Keon Keeley has a huge depth chart to overcome and climb. Richard Young has, in my opinion, an even bigger depth chart to climb. You already know Jace McClellan and Roy Dell come into the season with the biggest edge on everyone just based off experience. Now, we know Jace and Roy Dell have dealt with minor injuries throughout their time. Well, not minor. ACLs are definitely not minor, but you've heard an ankle injury here and a quad injury there. They both, Roy Dell and Jace, have had ACL injuries. Both of them have overcome those, but they both suffered and had injuries throughout their time here on campus. They do come into the 2023 season as the lead dogs, but bearing right down their back is Jamarian Miller. Jamarian Miller out of Texas is, he's shown that he can be a do-it-all running back. I think he's shown that he can be a three-down back. Now, I don't know if he's going to be as dynamic a pass catcher as Jace McClellan is, but I think Jamarian Miller has a lot of power and has a lot of ability and has a lot of hunger and drive. So you got three running backs already with experience, and then boom, sorry Richard Young, your man Justice Haynes, who it seems like you guys are on a good page. It seems like y'all have a good relationship from the recruiting days, but your man Justice Haynes enrolled early. No harm, no foul. Justice Haynes enrolled early, and boom, he made the most of it. He really, really caught Nick Saban's eye during the spring. You all heard him. You all remember what Coach Saban talking about. What did he say? If you were a frog, what was the line? If you're a frog on a log, you wouldn't know that he's just a freshman. I think that was the line. If you're sitting on a log, I think he said, if you're a frog on a log, you wouldn't know that Justice Haynes is just a freshman. And he told the guys at 8A, the announcers, I believe it was Jordan Rogers and Cole Kubelik, I believe, were the commentators at 8A, and Jordan Rogers at least basically said that he asked Nick Saban about Justice Haynes, and he said that Nick Saban got that sneaky little smile and just said he's good, and so it was kind of that stamp of approval. Now, does that mean that Richard Young can't come in this weekend and really impress Alabama, really impress Robert Gillespie and Tommy Rees and Nick Saban over fall camp? No, he certainly can. He absolutely can. The issue is for Richard Young is you've already got four running backs who have kind of shown it a little bit, have kind of shown, Jace McClellan and Roy Dell Williams have at least shown the propensity to be lead running backs last season. Now you can say, Jahmyr Gibbs kind of took that moniker from those guys, and Jason Roy Dell showed you last year that you need a little bit more than those two. And that's why, hence, Jahmyr Gibbs got so many touches, and then hence became a top, 15 draft pick? Was he 12 to the Lions? 12, 14 to the Lions? So he became a top 15 overall draft pick. So, yeah, maybe Roy Dell and Jace are not going to be your answers. I love what you've done in the running back room. I love it, Nick Saban. I think that Jamarian Miller gives you physicality. And then you bring in Justice Haynes and Richard Young, and it basically says to Roy Dell and Jace, hey man, if you two guys get complacent at all, if you even had a thought, or if it even crept into your mind that, you guys were the heir apparents, the incumbents, and you just would walk right into the starting running back position and would get all the reps, here's two 5-star freshmen that we want to remind you are waiting for some reps. So Richard Young coming on campus, I think it rounds out the class. All the freshmen are now on campus. All the 2023s are here, ready for fall camp. We're obviously getting going with summer workouts. Summer one school semester starts, I believe at the end of the week. So I'll double check on that with some of my student friends. But summer one and summer two school semesters will get going for June and July. All the 2023s are now enrolled on campus. Very, very exciting. No hang-ups, no flips, nobody enrolling in a junior college. We love that. All right, so on the other side, you have the 2023s, but you also have three veterans. Three veterans enroll into the team this week, enroll into campus this week, enroll at the university this week, and have joined the Alabama Crimson Tide football roster. Jalen Key, Trey Amos, and Tyler Buckner, the three transfers. So it's, we've kind of talked about these guys in the past before, but we'll go right over them again because they're now officially on the roster. We'll start with Jalen Key. We'll start with Jalen Key because I think Jalen Key might be might see the most playing time this year unless Tyler Buchner just walks in and blows away the quarterback competition. Jalen Key coming in, safety from the state of Alabama, from UAB. He spent 5 years at UAB, so he's coming into Tuscaloosa vastly experienced, which is a little bit of an area that Alabama safeties need some help in. You look in the safety room and you obviously see Malachi Moore, and you're like, all right, good, you're set with Malachi. And yes, I trust Malachi, definitely. But you look around after Malachi and you're like, whoa, the safety room doesn't have a whole lot of experience. Christian Story, I love you. You've been on the team a whole lot, a long time, but you haven't really taken that jump to be the leader. You haven't gotten yourself heavy playing time. Devontae Smith, not that Heisman winning Devontae Smith, but the other Devontae Smith hasn't really got himself the playing time either. Yes, Jake Pope has only been here 1 year. You look around the safety room and you're like, okay, there's a lot of question marks after Malachi Moore. And so, of course, we all know bringing in Caleb Downs, 5-star freshman, and he, by all accounts, is fulfilling the 5-star billing. Caleb Downs seems like he's going to walk right in and be that superstar level player, might contend for, SEC all-freshman team, might contend for SEC honors as a freshman. But you don't want to rely on a freshman. I mean, I don't. I don't think you do as an Alabama fan. I don't think you, look, we all remember Mika Fitzpatrick, and he was a great freshman, but you don't want to rely on a freshman. We all saw Derrick Henry early on as a freshman kind of look lost. It takes a while to get into the one, to play college football, 2, to learn the Alabama way, 3, when you're playing defensive back at Alabama, the pattern matching scheme is not the easiest to learn. Now, Caleb Downs, I have full faith that he has the capabilities to learn it, that he's not going to be left behind. But it's just a lot of information. It's a lot of reps. It's a lot of mental gymnastics that Caleb Downs is going to have to embrace and get with the program. So, Jalen Key, I think really, I think Jalen Key really provides you that depth piece, that really provides you that option to say, hey, this guy's been in college a long time. We can throw him out there next to Malachi Moore. He's seen a lot of pretty much everything. He's seen everything that the college game has to offer over 4 or 5 years. Yes, it's been at UAB and not in the SEC, but they play big-time college football an hour up the road at UAB as well. So I think Jalen Key will see the most playing time out of the 3 transfers, the 3 summer transfers, because of the experience that he's bringing into Tuscaloosa and just the opportunity that he's going to be able to have right here in this defensive back room. I'm not saying that he's going to kick Caleb Downs off the field. I don't think so at all. I think really he's going to be able to be utilized in that big brother role for Caleb Downs. I think he's going to be able to be utilized in that, hey, maybe we're playing 50-50, 60-40, 55-45, somewhere in that range. We're splitting reps at such a rate that, hey, when Caleb has a question, he rolls over to Jalen Key and says, hey, man, what did you see the last time you were out there on the field? When I was out there, I saw the 3 wide, I saw trips left, and they ended up doing, different looks. Jalen Key is going to be able to provide such a valuable veteran presence for Caleb Downs that I think that he's going to be the most impactful transfer, unless Tyler Buchner just absolutely shocks me. All right, so before we hit Tyler Buchner, we'll go to the other defensive back. It's Trey Amos. Trey Amos, obviously, you guys, look, you're all Alabama fans, and maybe you're not, and you listen to me. I love you if you're not. I love you if you are. It doesn't matter. You want to hear about Trey Amos? Trey Amos transferred from the University of Louisiana, and he spent a couple of years there at Louisiana, and he sees an opportunity in the defensive back room that maybe I don't see, but Trey Amos is operating with more information than I am. Let's all be honest. I love Terrion Arnold. I love Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think Kool-Aid McKinstry might end up being top 10 NFL draft pick this coming up spring. I will love it if my Chicago Bears end up in a position to draft Kool-Aid McKinstry or a J.C. Latham, somebody with that pedigree. But Trey Amos comes in because Nick Saban has sold him on the fact, or on the at least possibility, that Terrion Arnold is not that dude, or Terrion Arnold is vulnerable. Terrion Arnold has some chinks in his game. Now, you saw that last year a couple of different times, namely against Texas specifically. It wasn't Terrion Arnold getting burned at Tennessee. Sorry, DeMarco Hellens. But Terrion Arnold did get hurt a couple of times against Texas, and I think Terrion Arnold he got picked on against Texas A&M despite making the game-winning play at the very end of the contest. He gave up, 160 yards, some odd yards receiving, but ended up coming away with the game-sealing pass breakup. So, really, really excited about Terrion Arnold personally. But Nick Saban maybe thinks that he wants to push him a little more. So he brings in Trey Amos. Who's played at Louisiana, and in conversation with scouts who have seen Trey Amos play, they see a prototypical type corner. They see a cornerback who has all the skills, but just all the tools and the raw ability. 6'1", 200 pounds, long arms, fast player. Just needs a little more refinement. And where else should you be refined as a cornerback than the University of Alabama and Nick Saban? Let's look over the last 16 years and check out the NFL and check out all the corners that are in the league that University of Alabama. I mean, going back to 2007, 8, Nick Saban's been putting out corners really since his second year with Kareem Jackson. So Trey Amos, you come to Alabama, develop a little bit. He's got multiple years of eligibility left. So even if he comes in and really doesn't crack the code right there at the beginning, I think that Kool-Aid McKinstry goes and gets drafted, and Trey Amos becomes a cornerback. Maybe it becomes a Trey Amos and Terrion Arnold cornerback combination in 2024, and maybe Nick Saban's just thinking 2 years down the line when he sees Trey Amos in the transfer portal. So we'll watch him as he comes in. I like defensive back play just because I think it's one of the hardest positions to play. But I will just be honest with you, the listener. I love Terrion Arnold. I think Terrion Arnold athletically has all the gifts and tools as well. So really, I'm pulling for Terrion Arnold to keep his starting position. And we'll just watch and see how that goes over the summer and over the fall. Lastly, on the transfer side of things, before we flip to the other sports, Tyler Buchner. Tyler Buchner comes into the program, and he's the hottest. He's the hottest prospect. He's the hottest transfer, namely because of the position that he plays, quarterback. We've all been wondering since Bryce Young's last few minutes against Kansas State in the Sugar Bowl, who's going to be quarterback for Alabama in 2023. I think a lot of people were up on the Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, one or the other, A or B, B or A, back and forth all spring long. And you had a couple people, of course, in the Eli Holstein and Dylan Lonergan camp. I never really thought that those two guys would be able to crack the lineup over Ty Simpson and Jalen Milroe due to their experience. But you never know, and you still never know. Let's be honest, you still never know with under 100 days, 97 days, 96 days away from Alabama kicking off against MTSU. So you still never know. But Tyler Buchner enrolls this weekend at the University of Alabama, so it's official. It's officially a 5-way quarterback battle between Buchner, Ty Simpson, Jalen Milroe, Eli Holstein, and Dylan Lonergan. We're going to continue to talk about Buchner throughout the summer, but I think that Buchner brings the element to the quarterback battle that it gives Nick Saban some peace of mind. It gives Nick Saban the peace of mind to know that, okay, if things go south over the next 90 days, or if things don't progress, not go south, but if things don't progress forward, if everything stays exactly stagnant, and we are walking into 2023 with exactly what we have right now, I think Tyler Buchner gives you a quarterback who can operate an offense. Now, will he be as dynamic as Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Mac Jones, Bryce Young? No, he won't. He won't be. But can he be as effective as maybe Mac? Perhaps. Can he be as effective as Jake Coker? I think so. Can he be as effective as Blake Sims? I think so too. Not in the same running style. Now, he can move, but he just doesn't have the Blake Sims running. My point is, I think that when you look at Jake Coker, Blake Sims, you look at the Greg McElroy, you look at those offenses where the quarterback maybe wasn't the star, but was good enough, was able to make it happen, was able to utilize the talent around him. I think that's what you're seeing with the quarterbacks that you currently have. Look at the rest of the roster, and I see position groups that stand out for their strength. We already hit on the running backs. We didn't hit on the offensive line or the receivers today or the tight ends today, but I think you really have strengths at the other offensive position. So when you bring in Tyler Buchner, I think Buchner gives you that safety blanket if none of the quarterbacks continue to improve, if the competition does not progress forward. So Buchner enrolls on campus. You're now set for 2023, unless there's any surprise transferees out, which I don't expect at this point of the season, but you never know. The transfer portal taketh and giveth. It's always a surprise. I expect this roster to be what you have going into 2023. And let's be honest, I think a lot of people are down on this Alabama team. You see a lot of preseason polls at 6, at 7, at 5, at 8. Man, I like this Alabama team. I like what you have walking into the season. I think that this team has a huge chip on its shoulder. I think LSU is going to be favored in the West by the writers. We'll see that at SEC Media Days in July. But I really, really like what you've got with this Alabama team. I think they're getting a little bit of the shaft considering the lack of returning talent at quarterback position. And I think they're getting a little bit of the shaft due to the new coordinators. Let's be honest, Kevin Steele knows what to expect under Nick Saban. Tommy Rees, obviously his age is a factor and his inexperience is a factor, but coordinating at a high level, you can laugh at Notre Dame being called a high level or not, but objectively it is. Objectively, they play high-level football, and Tommy Rees is experienced calling offenses at a high-level program. So I like what this Alabama team has going into the 2023 season. We'll continue to break down the roster as the offseason rolls on, but that's really what it looks like as the enrollees, the summer transfers, and the rest of the freshman class enrolled this Memorial Day weekend. All right, let's hit a break, or let's actually not hit a break. We're going to keep rolling right here on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, a part of the BamaCentral Broadcasting Network. Let's move over to active sports. 2 active sports went hard this weekend. Bravo, Miss Montana Fouts and Alabama softball. Bravo. You ladies, really Jayla Torrance. I'm sorry. Jayla Torrance should not be overlooked. Jayla Torrance should not be overlooked for what she did for this program. Montana Fouts gets the start on Friday against Northwestern. If you're living under a rock, Alabama beats Northwestern 2-1 to advance to Oklahoma City, to advance to the College World Series, and really, honestly, I think has now overachieved for their season. Especially considering where they were 2 months ago and everything that this team has really endured throughout the year. So they go in Friday night, and you don't know what's Montana's status. What is she going to pitch? Is she available? Is she not? Murph throws her out there, and she gives up, 3-4 runs, and Jayla Torrance comes in and saves the day, shuts them down. Alabama ends up still losing on Friday because the Bats are what they've been most of the season, not that good. And so Murph is asked, why did you start her? She wasn't healthy. Patrick Murphy's honest, and I think he's exactly right. He said after Friday, she earned the start. She earned the chance to start this Friday night game. Look throughout her career. You want to tell Murphy's wrong? I'm going to tell you you're wrong. Murphy's exactly right. Everything that she's done, if she was 85% or better, if she was capable of pitching, she earned that start. And so that's one you live and die with, especially, look, Murph talked about it, how difficult last Sunday's events were against MTSU, not knowing whether to throw out Montana Fouts or not wanting the season to end without Montana Fouts getting her last chance in the circle at the Rhodes House. And he talked about how it was one of the hardest days of his coaching career. I think that played into his decision-making on Friday night. Now, Alabama lost on Friday, but Saturday, oh my gosh, Saturday the ladies come back, and he makes up for, he changes his mind, he goes the opposite way. He goes the opposite way and starts Jayla Torrance on Saturday, and Jayla was lights out all weekend long. There's nothing like the praises, the gold stars, the flowers cannot come enough for Jayla Torrance over the weekend. Absolutely lights out pitching for Jayla. All right, on Friday, Jayla Torrance, 3 2/3 innings, no runs on Friday. On Saturday, she ends up pitching. On Saturday, 4 innings pitched, 1 run. And on Sunday, again, lights out again. Jayla Torrance, 3 innings pitched, 1 run. So 3 plus 4 is 7, plus another 3 is 10. 10 innings go by over the weekend, only 2 runs for Miss Jayla Torrance. And I know Montana gets all the headlines due to her injury, and she should, 100%. Oh my gosh, the photo striking out the last batter yesterday against Northwestern. Northwestern had just hit a home run to make the game kind of tight, bring it to 3-2, get everybody in Road Stadium's stomachs into knots, have the butterflies going, and Miss Montana Fouts shuts it right down, strikes them out to close out the game and send Alabama to Oklahoma City. Just an impressive weekend for Alabama. We called it last week on the show. Katie Wyndham told everybody that there would be low-scoring games. Well, 3-1, 2-1, 3-2. That's 4 and 3 is 7, plus 5, 12 total runs throughout the 3 total contests against Northwestern. And give a lot of credit to Northwestern, their pitching staff, Danielle Williams, their pitching staff were incredible this weekend. It just, Alabama had just a little bit too much, just had to do just enough on that Sunday to end up winning the game. Got a key hit from Allie Shipman in that Sunday game. A home run by a half an inch by Jayla Torrance on Sunday, and the home run that you absolutely needed. And so these girls are going to go out to Oklahoma City on Thursday, and you know what? They're just going to let it ride. They're going to give it their best shot on Thursday, and I think that, oh gosh, look at the bracket. The bracket did Alabama no favors this week. No favors if you're an Alabama softball fan. Now, let's just put it in a vacuum. We're thrilled to go to Oklahoma City. We're over the moon. And I stand by what I said 3 minutes ago. I do think at this point, the season has been a success. You have almost overachieved, especially considering all the bumps in the road, everything you've dealt with this year. Thursday's going to be a bear. Thursday, Alabama kicks off the tournament. You kick off the tournament on ESPN, right? It's going to be at 11 o'clock Central Time, noon Eastern. 11 o'clock Central Time, Alabama kicks off the tournament with, the Tennessee Vols. Gross. The Tennessee Vols, who you lost to, 6-7 in the SEC tournament 2 weeks ago. You lost 2-1 up in Knoxville in March. So it's been a minute. You played Tennessee four different times this year. It beat you 3 times. Does that give Alabama an advantage this week on Thursday? I don't know. Now, the familiarity, I do like that. I do like the familiarity for our girls, especially considering the struggles you've seen at the plate. You saw Patrick Murphy move Ashley Prangy into the leadoff spot this past weekend, I think on Saturday and Sunday, and it worked out well. Golly, Ashley Prangy, where would you be without her? Thank the Lord she transferred from Ohio State. Ashley Prangy's been the only stick in this lineup, the only consistent stick in this lineup for 2 years. And I thank the Lord for you, Ashley Prangy. So Thursday, you're taking on Tennessee, and it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a real challenge. Now, if you're able to beat Tennessee, obviously they won the SEC, and I believe they won the SEC tournament as well. If you're able to beat Tennessee, well, congratulations. Your victory, your prize is you take on the winner of Oklahoma and Stanford on Saturday. Oh, shoot. Oh, now you do get a day off, but the prospects of playing number 1 seeded Oklahoma do not excite me. Oklahoma, probably your best team in college softball history. I mean, goodness gracious, what they have done, Patty Casso and company, what they have done over a 5-10 year stretch is just unbelievable. And that program is going to be in the SEC, so you're just going to have to get used to playing them. But this week, they're still in the Big 12 one more week. We all know they have an absolutely stupidly loaded roster. They obviously have a little bit of home field advantage, playing, 30, 40 minutes away from Oklahoma City. And so it's going to be a challenge for our ladies this week. You got thrown into the bracket with Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Stanford. If you can get out of that side, and play yourself into a championship next week, Patrick Murphy, you dirty dog, what a job you've already done. I think Murph, there were people who early in the year, you lost to Lehigh, you coming off not making supers last year, getting bounced out in the regionals. There were people, now right or wrong, I think wrong, but there were people wondering about Patrick Murphy's job security. And Murph's, throws up the, hey, just give us time, be patient. And where are we as the season ends? Oh, yeah, right back out there in Oklahoma City. We're going to have Miss Montana Fouts' career end on the softball's biggest stage, on the college softball's biggest stage out there at the World Series. So I'm really looking forward to our girls getting out there. You're going to be able to see our coverage. We're sending a huge team out there. We're sending a team out to Oklahoma City, and I'm really excited to see Katie Wyndham. I believe Edwin Stanton as well are going to be out there, and they're just going to be covering Alabama softball like white on rice. You'll be able to see it on BamaCentral.com. They're getting out there, I believe, tomorrow for the press conferences, and really they're just going to cover everything for you on BamaCentral.com. So really looking forward to Alabama softball. The season continues at least one more week, and we will see if the ladies can really cap it off with a strong weekend ahead out there in Oklahoma City. All right, one more topic, one more sport to hit on. Alabama baseball, the Tide, they did it. The selection has been made. For the first time since 2006, Alabama baseball is picked to host a regional. Yeah, you heard that right. We're not just in the bubble. We're not just in the tournament. We're not in or out. We are so firmly in the tournament that the Tide got chosen as a regional host site. Alabama this weekend will be hosting Nicholls State, Boston College, and Troy. And that's going to be, it'll be cool this weekend. Come on, come to the Joe. If you're not glued to the TV watching the Alabama girls out there in Oklahoma City, come to the Joe on Friday night. Taking on Nicholls State. Cannot determine whether it's going to be 6 or 7, just based on the time zones on the internet. But it'll be right there on Friday night. Taking on Nicholls State. You'll be able to see, if you want to get in there early, see Troy and Boston College earlier in the day, I believe at 3:30. Alabama's familiar with Troy. You've beaten Troy twice already this year. Now Boston College, their baseball team, they've had a pretty good season. They've had 35-18. Had a nice little year in the ACC. They were bounced out of the ACC tournament by Clemson this past week. They ended up playing Wake Forest. They played a lot of good baseball teams this year. Wake Forest, Pepperdine, Florida State, Virginia Tech. Now we all remember Alabama was scheduled to take on Pepperdine earlier in the year, but some weather issues in California prevented that from happening. Well, Boston College made it out to California and took two out of 3 in Malibu. They ended up taking 2 out of 3 against Florida State. Now they lost to Wake Forest, top seeded Wake Forest in a series, 2-1, and then they ended up losing 2-1 in a series to Clemson. So they played big time college baseball this year. I think Boston College becomes the biggest, obviously the biggest opponent this weekend in the regionals. But just to have Alabama qualify for a regional after just the hurdles, the issues, everything that they've been dealing with throughout the year. Look, they had some troubles during the early part of the SEC play. You all have been following the Brad Bohannon firing scandal. We now know that he was in contact with a former Little League coach, some sort of a coach out over there with connections to the University of Cincinnati. And look, that's a mess too. You put that mess behind you. The guys had a really good showing in the SEC tournament this past weekend. Yeah, you would have loved to have gone further. You would have loved to have gone 3-2. 2-2 is fun. It was a good week. It was a good week. We all know. I think Hoover is one of the most competitive tournaments that there are. And it stings to get eliminated in that fashion. But the consolation prize is, hey man, more postseason baseball in Tuscaloosa. Postseason baseball in Tuscaloosa is something that hasn't happened in almost 20 bleeping years. 20 minus 3 is 17 seasons it's been since postseason baseball has been right here in Tuscaloosa. So on Friday night, oh my gosh, will I be there? Oh, sweet. I think I'm going to be there. My man Chris Walsh asked me, and I absolutely said yes. I'm going to say yes to any opportunity I can. But Austin Hannon, of course, is leader, head chief in charge. Austin Hannon and Will Miller will be there at the Joe on Friday. I think I'm going to be there as well, and that's going to be a lot. I cannot wait. I'll be in the Joe if all the powers that be allow that, and I can't wait to bring you the coverage of that this weekend. Alabama qualifying for Super Regionals. I might be there to see it. Oh, man, it's going to be a fun week. I cannot wait for that. So follow my man Austin Hannon at Austin Hannon SI, at Real WB Miller, and myself at Joe Gaither 6, as I believe the three of us will bring you coverage of Alabama's regional round against Boston College, Nicholls State, and Troy. As for Nicholls State, they come away with winning the Southland Baseball Tournament, their first time since 1998, so they're having a strong season as well. But come on, guys, let's be real. It's Nicholls State, Alabama. We should expect ourselves to take care of Nicholls State. Yes, Southland Conference champions, 34-22 this season. Let's scroll through their schedule. And, okay, you've taken a series win against Memphis. You took a series win against UL Monroe. You lost big to Mississippi State, who Alabama smacked hard this year. You lost big to LSU. Let's see, continuing on through. You beat LSU on a Tuesday night. What the heck was that about, Tigers? You continue to roll through, and that's really all you got for as far as Nicholls State. Now, beating LSU, going one-on-one with the Tigers, gives me just a tiny pause, and so we'll have to kind of follow what new interim head coach Jason Jackson will say this week, as Alabama is going to be hosting Nicholls State, Boston College, and Troy, with an eye on Super Regionals. Golly, if you told me Super Regionals would be realistic for this team, again, that's why I'm so over the moon about both the Diamond Sports having so much success. A month and change ago, I was out on both the Diamond Sports. I was ready. I don't mean to admit this, but I was ready for them to, go out with a whimper and have the football offseason really get ramped up, if you know what I'm saying. Watching the recruiting, watching basketball recruiting, and really getting fired up for fall camp. But now, golly, both the teams. Kudos, Jason Jackson. Kudos to you, Patrick Murphy, and all your players on both sides, buying into what is possible, buying into yourselves, believing in yourselves, turning inward, and really making the most out of the last 6 or so weeks of both of your seasons. I cannot wait to see what you do and how it ends for both of you guys. All right, just a couple minutes remaining here on the Joe Gaither Show on the BamaCentral Network as part of BamaCentral.com. You can watch us and listen to us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, on Spotify, Apple Music. We're putting out the podcast wherever podcasts can be found. Just want to touch real quick. You've made it this far. You can hear, look, the rest of the week, I'm going to be talking to Michael Bronner of WNSP tomorrow. My friend Michael Bronner will talk about all kinds of sports. We'll mostly probably talk about SEC spring meetings. I am going to be having a legend on the program on Friday, Mr. Andy Phillips. Andy Phillips, former Alabama baseball and New York Yankees fame and prominent Tuscaloosa businessman. Andy Phillips has agreed to join me on Friday to talk about this Alabama baseball team and regionals on deck. Hopefully super regionals the next week, and we'll talk about Andy's career as well. So I'm really looking forward to Andy Phillips on Friday, to Michael Bronner tomorrow. I got a line out on Mac Hereford, Alabama football player. We are dancing around our dates. I think he might join me this week as well. So looking forward to hopefully hearing from Mac Hereford, former Alabama Crimson Tide football player, social media superstar as well this week. So hopefully it's going to be a fun week being joined by those three. And of course, you guys can join us any day by leaving your comments or sending me a message on the Twitter machine, on the Facebook machine, right there at Joe Gaither 6. Just real quickly to wrap it up and to get this out of my system. Night of Champions, WWE Night of Champions over the weekend had a lot of interesting takes. My man Seth Rollins winning the new World Heavyweight Championship. It's hard to say whether it's a secondary, it's hard to say it's not, a secondary championship, considering that Roman Reigns is the Universal Champion. But I love Seth Rollins. Very happy for him to get the belt put on him this weekend. It looked like he and AJ Styles had a hell of a match. I caught the last 4 or 5 minutes of each of the events, each of the matches. WWE, great job storytelling. Thank you for your, teenage boy soap opera that you continually put on each and every week. I appreciate that. Cody Rhodes losing. Oh, my man Cody losing to Brock Lesnar. Obviously setting up a Brock Lesnar, Cody Rhodes 3 at SummerSlam. And then, of course, golly, majestic storytelling. And that's what it's all about. You guys can make fun of me and say, Joe, it's fake. Yes, I know it's fake. It's scripted. You're still falling from the turnbuckle. You're still getting hit in the head with certain things. But the story is scripted. And the story between the Usos and my man Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens all dancing back and forth. Just impeccable. Jey Uso going to be the one eventually to take out Roman Reigns. Will it be SummerSlam? Will it be next year at WrestleMania? We'll see. So enjoying the direction that WWE is taking some of their storylines, and we will see. We'll keep up with it right here on the Joe Gaither Show. Obviously, we're saving that sort of things for last. We'll keep the Bama stuff up front for you guys. But it's going to be a fun week. Tomorrow, again, Michael Bronner, SEC spring meetings, and so much more. Will we see Nick Saban back off a 9-game schedule? Is Nick Saban going to stick with 8? Is he afraid of LSU, Tennessee, and Auburn? No, Nick, you're surely not scared of those 3. You're not afraid, Nick. That's not what this all boils down to. We'll talk about scheduling, divisions, and who Alabama's opponents will be tomorrow right here on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com. This has been the Monday edition of the Joe Gaither Show. You're listening on the Bama Central Broadcasting Network. Big thanks to my man Chris Walsh. Follow him at Writing Walsh. Follow us at BamaCentral on the Twitter machine. Find me at Joe Gaither 6 on the Twitter machine. And we'll be back tomorrow with another edition of the Joe Gaither Show. For me, the listener, for me, Joe Gaither, backwards already. For me, Joe Gaither, you, the listener, I hope you have a happy Memorial Day. We appreciate all of our veterans who have served, our veterans who will serve, the families of veterans, and of course, more specifically, our thoughts, our prayers are with those who have lost their lives in service to the country. We thank you very much, and we hope you have a very happy Monday. Roll Tide. We'll be back with you tomorrow. See you later, guys. Roll Tide.